Welcome in, welcome in. It is the Walk Thru GameDay Show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. We're here to bring you West Virginia and UCF game preview. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Oklahoma State loss last week. We're also going to take a look at the Big 12 standings. West Virginia was in the mix there for the first few weeks, but things have kind of died down now after a couple of losses. So we'll see where West Virginia sits. Where is maybe a good spot for them to finish? What is a respectable finish for them? And then we'll also wrap up the show with our picks. So, Gene, let's go ahead and get into the dirty stuff here first. And that is West Virginia giving up 28 points in that fourth quarter, over 150 or so rushing yards to Oklahoma State, to specifically Ollie Gordon. And falling 48-34. They made the man look like Barry Sanders.
Well, listen, having the opportunity to play against Barry Sanders in the Sun Bowl, I'm not going to quite say that. But I will say, when you don't get a good back like this young man on the ground, you're going to give up those kind of numbers. And I hope that we don't see that type of display of defense for the rest of this season. We can't afford to. Right now, every game counts.
That's 2 weeks in a row, Gene, where the tackling has been just awful, right? And really, I think a lot of people forget, too, just because of how well they played in the second half of that TCU game. The first half of that TCU game was abysmal defensively in terms of tackling. It got a little better as it went on. But, man, we talked about it, I think, at the postgame that night, the adjustments that they made and just being able to fit things better. They weren't really playing out of gaps or out of their lanes or whatever. They were sticking to their assignment, and it started to pay off. But, man, the tackling was just horrendous, and I don't know what it is. And to me, this is what's alarming, Eugene, is Neil. How many times did Neil talk about in the preseason, oh, we're drilling tackling. We're drilling tackling like we've never drilled before. We're tackling more than we're allowed to, or not more than we're allowed to, but as much as we're allowed to, more than we ever have. And that way, that when we go to Penn State, it's not going to be a problem. Well, it really wasn't a problem for the first couple of weeks. So you kind of give them, the nod there. But that's a thing that's got to remain consistent from game 1 to game 12 if you're going to have a chance to do really much of anything. You have to be able to tackle. You have to play disciplined football. And those are two things that they have not done, and has come back to bite them in the the last 2 weeks.
Well, when you look at it, again, success breeds from consistency in anything that you do in life. We're talking sports at this particular point. We're talking defense and we're talking tackling. So if you got away from that over these last few weeks, whatever, because of maybe injury, because of certain things, that's a coaching thing that you have to get back to. Because if you're not consistent in getting ball carries on the ground, quarterbacks on the ground, receivers, after the catch on the ground, I don't care how poor your opposition is, they're going to have a chance to beat you. It's just that simple. So, yeah, we have to get back to that. You have to get back to the fundamentals of what football is. And that's one of the reasons why, and that's what really separates a good team from a mediocre team to, from a great team. It's the little things in principle. It's the philosophies. It's the consistency of the little things that you do that will allow you to become successful. And it doesn't matter who you play. That's the thing. The good football teams and the great football teams, it doesn't matter who they're playing week in and week out. They're consistent in what they do. And with that simple philosophy, they win ball games. It's really just that simple. There's no way around. There's no secret sauce to it.
Right. And it's not always just the amount of penalties that you have in a game, right? Because if you look at the box score, you think 5 penalties, it's really not that bad. I mean, we've seen games where there's been double-digit penalties. You're like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. But it's the timing of those penalties. It's where those penalties happen. It's the point in the game of when those penalties happen. We talked about it in the postgame. The 2 penalties that happened on the one play, you had the face mask and then you had the late hit out of bounds. You're giving them 30 free yards right after they just got the ball back. I mean, that's handing them points, right? You can't do that. And when they're averaging, let's see, I had this stat I thought I wrote it down. I must not have, but I think they were averaging getting to like a 2nd and 3 almost every time they had a first down. And it makes sense when your running back was rushing for 9.7 yards a carry. That's almost a first down every time he touched the ball. And I think in that second half with those 2 big runs that he ripped, I don't know that anyone got a finger on him.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And see, for me as a former back, I was screaming at the TV, and I was confused. One part, I was like, oh, man, I love that big, juicy hole. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's happened to us. Oh, no, hit him, get him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. It's tough. Again, I don't care who you're playing against. If you're able to get it from the first level into the second level and then into the third level, past your DBs with not one person laying a finger on you, I'm telling you, it wouldn't matter how big or how slow you are, you're going to run 400 yards.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
you can be 5'2" and you can weigh 116 pounds with 8 rocks in your pocket. If you're running through a hole that size, Schuyler, you're going to run 400 yards.
yeah, and I'm pretty slow. So I mean and I'd still be able to run for maybe 100 yards at least if they're playing their angles like that, if they're not scraping like they're supposed to, if they're not setting the edge like you're going to have a really hard time, especially trying to tackle a guy with a hand or an arm or just by reaching. Like that stuff's not going to work when the guy's 230, 240 pounds barreling down at you. And as fast as he is, I mean, he's pretty quick for his size.
Oh, no doubt. Let me tell you something that's funny, right? So if you take a guy, and I'm gonna talk about, I was blessed with some nice wheels, right? But if you take a guy, let's say an average back that runs a 4.6, right?
Yeah.
That's hitting the hole, and you are not taking proper angles on defense. Do you know when that guy gets a 4.6, when he gets hit, let's say he gets to the second level, that means he's getting to the linebackers. Do you know his forward progress is going to give him 4 to 5 yards every time?
Yeah.
Every time. And that's a 4.6. So now you got a guy's running a 4.4 or a 4.35. He is gone. Because guess what? That linebacker won't be able to get a hand on him. That's the difference in the trajectory of the speed and how fast his legs are going. He is gone, out of there.
Yeah.
Should I say the sound? Should I make the sound?
Go for
it. Gone. So that's what we were dealing with, man.
Yeah, it just felt like it kind of spiraled out of control in that fourth quarter. And like I talked about before, I don't know if it was on here, whatever show I was on, it's like this team in the last couple of games, the moment there's a little bit of adversity, right. I'm not saying that their effort drops, but I think their confidence certainly does. Because you think those sudden change moments, right? Oklahoma State muffed the very first punt of the game. You're thinking, oh, this is great. West Virginia's got great field position. Go in there and score. Guess what happens? 2 plays later, Cole Taylor fumbles the ball, gives it right back to him. West Virginia later in the game, in the fourth quarter, when you're up 4, has a guy gets trucks into his own punt returner. Is what it is. But when that happens, your defense has to come on the field and hold them to at least 3. Right? That's the best case scenario you could potentially get out of that, outside of maybe a miracle turnover. And they didn't do that. I believe Ollie Gordon went right into the end zone on that. So that's the sudden change has to be better handled. I don't know. I think this team they've got to be able to get over that hump, deal with adversity a little bit better. And I think too, when they got out to that 4-1 start, I think they started feeling themselves a little bit. They started reading things. They started hearing things. Oh, we're actually living past the expectations, and everyone said we're 14th. We're starting to feel ourselves a little bit. And they went down to Houston. They got humbled. Last week, they really got humbled. And now it's a test to see, where are you really at? Are you going to be a team that's going to lay down and just kind of fall apart in the second half? Or are you going to respond?
You got to. Well, that's what this is, man. This week, UCF is a respond week. What are you bringing to the table?
Can't go to 4-4.
No. Wouldn't be good.
It would not. So
No.
let's go and transition here into the Big 12 standings. I'll throw this up here on the screen. There's a bunch of teams kind of there in the middle of the pack at 2-2. You got some 4 3-1 teams. It looks like you got Oklahoma sitting there at the top. So we're just putting this in order as the Big 12 has them. West Virginia would be 8th, even though they're kind of tied there with a couple of teams. Look,
Right.
Preseason, they're picked 14th by the media. I can't remember exactly what you said before the season. I think I said if they finish 10th or 11th, that's where I kind of had them. But here's the trick. Here's the trick. Just because I said they should finish 10th or 11th and that'd be a success in the preseason doesn't mean it's a success now, right? Because that's before we knew anything that was going to happen. We've got 7 games of tape here. We got 7 games of proof to really kind of show what this team is worth and what they're made out of. So to me, that changes things because now we have information. I don't think finishing 10th or 11th is a success with this football team. I think you're talking about you've got to finish in the top, I would say top 8. And I know it's not much of a difference, but you're talking maybe an extra win or 2 in league play. If you finish in the top 8, I think you're probably, in that 7-5-ish range.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
You can't sit there and go 10 or finish 10th or 11th in the conference and be more than likely 6-6 or worse. You just can't.
Not listen, and you know me. I'm a realist. No, you can't. Not in this conference, not in this year, not when the conference is down with 4 or 5 newcomers. No, you cannot. And that's the reason why what you said makes a lot of sense. We live in a data-driven society.
Yeah.
The data shows me after 7 games that we should win at least 8 ball games.
7, 8, yeah.
Data shows me that. Because what I'm looking at, I got enough of a sample size to see what I'm really looking at. With our roster compared to the other rosters, compared to these 4 or 5 newcomers, these new jacks, that's not ready for this level of competition consistently, they're not ready for it. So I'm not expecting to lose more than 1 game moving forward. And I know that's lofty. I know it is. I know the fans are like, wait a minute, I know Eugene Napoleon don't drink. What's going on? What's happening right now? The only game I'm looking at us having some struggles with is Oklahoma.
You know what I got to say to that?
Have at it.
Prepare to be disappointed.
Oh, wow.
Because we're going to get to it here in a little bit, but you're not going to like the spread for this game. And I think we've talked about it before off air, and that's just it kind of shocked me. But I think you look at the schedule, it's winnable. There's a lot of winnable games on the schedule, but there's also some losable games too. Like I've kind of been picking UCF to win this game for a long time. We'll see if I change my mind on that here at the end of the show. BYU is a little bit better than I anticipated. You called that. Oklahoma is Oklahoma. Cincinnati, you should be able to beat, right? Baylor, you should be able to beat, but you just don't know with this team. It does not look like the same team that we saw the first 5 weeks of the season, where you could rely on the defense, you could run the football, play time of possession, and you're just hoping the offense would get clicking. You thought, man, if the offense just gets going, this thing's right. This thing's going to roll. But now it's flipped to where the defense isn't playing well, the offense is playing great, and special teams has not been living up to their expectations. So it's just a mess right now. So they better figure it out this week, or else again, we may have to break out that hot seat meter for Neil Brown again next week and see where that thing's readjusted, because I had him as a cold seat heading into that Oklahoma State game.
Look,
So that's the look at the Big 12 standings. Again, they're West Virginia kind of smudged up there in the middle with Kansas, BYU, and Baylor all sitting there at 2-2. A win would definitely get them back. I wouldn't say in the mix. Look, if they went out, they could definitely be there at the end, but they're going to have some help, clearly. But we'll see what
Sure.
happens. So when we come back after the break, we'll get to our game preview, West Virginia UCF. We'll also have Gene in his Fire Me Up speech to get us all pumped up for the game, and then we'll make our picks for the weekend. So stay tuned just right after the break here on the Walk Thru GameDay Show. Do you have dirty air ducts? Is your dryer vent plugged up? Well, odds are you probably don't know the answer to that question. Fortunately for you, we know a guy. Give Justin at Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning a call at 304-639-3395 for your free home evaluation. That's 304-639-3395. Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. All right, so it's time to get into our West Virginia UCF game preview here. We're going to break down some things to watch for, look at some of the numbers, some players that you'll want to keep your eye on in this one. Before we get into UCF, I really kind of want to dive into the West Virginia side of this because I think obviously that's probably what you guys care more so about. That's what you want to be watching, you want to hear. So let's start with the obvious. I actually wrote an article earlier this week, and it was about C.J. Donaldson, how the Mountaineers need more from him. I think I'm about to stun you with this because I don't know, and maybe you already know, but it stunned me when I found this stat. Do you know that C.J. Donaldson this season has not recorded a single rush of 20 yards or more?
Yes, I knew that.
Blew my mind.
I was aware.
The longest rush he has had is 17 yards. He did it against Houston, and he did it against, I believe, Pitt. And for the season, I think he's at like 3.9 yards a carry. He's got about 400 some yards for the year. And that's just not good enough. And we've seen him, I think his average is like 64 or 65 yards a game. If you would have told me that before Penn State and say, hey, 7 games in, he's going to average 65, 66 yards a game, I would have been extremely concerned about where this team was, where the offense was, where Neil Brown was, more importantly, because who knows if he'd even be here if he was running for 65 yards a game. I don't know what the record would have been. But to me, I don't know if it's fatigue because, again, before last season, he never played running back in his career. This was a whole new thing to him. It was completely foreign. And now he's past that point where he reached the 60-some or 70-some yard or 70-some carries that he had a year ago. He's past that mark. Is it fatigue? Is it the fact that people have tape on him now and he's trying to adjust? Is he just going through a sophomore slump? Is he lacking confidence? What is it that you think is going on with C.J. Donaldson?
I want you to understand something, and you kind of pivot to that one thing. When defensive coordinators now have tape on you, you are no longer a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. It's no different than having a quarterback who had a breakout season. When you come back and you have a whole offseason for the D coordinators and all that to really put together a sound game plan, now it's like, oh, okay, we know how he likes to run. We know that, he's a slasher downhill runner. We know that he doesn't typically run well to the outside. We know these things now. Okay, so we're going to approach a game plan as to how we're going to stop him a little bit differently. You also hit on something that's very important. Now that you're past that threshold of 70-plus carries, that's different. And unless you played running back at this level, where you're getting hit consistently at this level, you really don't understand. All those things are very crucial. They're not minute. It's not in a vacuum. Those things are very, very consistent with why things are happening. And I'm not sure if he's 100% healthy. I haven't read anything. I don't know anything. It doesn't look like the explosiveness is there from a year ago. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a kid that, if he's not 100% healthy, if he's going to talk and say he's not 100% healthy, I don't know if he's that kid. I can't lie to you. I wasn't.
Right.
If I wasn't healthy, no one knew it. Unless I went out there and it was so obvious that I was not healthy. Like I had a really bad ankle sprain where I had a crack in my ankle. It was horrible. So you knew there was only but so many carries I was going to get out of each game in my senior year because it happened in camp.
Right.
So I came into the season not 100% healthy. You know what I mean? So unless it's something like that where it's obvious, I'm not sure. But I will tell you this. When D coordinators have film on you, they can do a lot, similar to our defensive side of the ball. Once we know, we now should know how to defend said person and or team.
Right.
You would
And
think.
the one thing that I've kind of really got a sense of from the coaching staff is they are really wanting to get Jaheim White involved. And again, this is a kid you really liked coming out of high school. I liked him coming out of high school. He was really good with us, did his own little blog on our site. Man, he is just an absolute electrifying player. When the ball is in his hands, he can do a lot of different things. The number one thing I continue to hear from Neil Brown, from Chad Scott, and from others is he's got to practice better to be able to play on the field on Saturdays. So I think I don't know that it's really alarming. I mean, Jaheim's a great kid. I don't think it's anything to do with he thinks he's too good or he's lacking and slacking in practice or anything. I think he just needs to learn how to practice at this level.
No,
And yeah,
no. Let me break that down for you. No.
go.
Here's what happens. And I'm not at practice. So let me just put that out there right now.
Yeah.
One of the greatest mistakes in the history of college football was Oklahoma, Marcus Dupree, one of the greatest backs ever. Barry Switzer will go to his grave saying this. That kid was not a practice back. He was not. Horrible in practice. Atrocious in practice. You put him on a game. He was a gamer. You put him in a game, and that kid is giving you 200 plus per game. Okay? Here's the thing. You got to know what you have.
Right.
That's a coach's eye, my guy. You got to know what you have. Everybody on, and I'm old school enough to admit that now everyone is not practice players. So you get a guy that's super in practice and don't get it done in the games.
Yeah. And then you have the other way around too.
He just may not be that guy. I'll tell you what. It happens because it does happen reverse. Like you said earlier, you may have a guy that's a great practice player and is just not a gamer. I've seen enough of him to, and again, I'll say this, I'm not at practice, but I've seen enough of him in the games for the little sample size is explosive.
And that's what this West Virginia offense needs right now. They cannot bust a run. Like it's great that you can get 3-4 yards a carry and run the ball 40, 45 times, but at least 1, 2, or 3 of those, they've got to pop. They've got to go for 30 or 40 yards.
Here's the thing. Now, if he's a kid that has a lot of MAs, missed assignments, and he doesn't know the plays, that's something totally different. That's something totally different. If he doesn't know your offense, he doesn't know where he fits in the passing game as far as blocking and coming out of the backfield, and that's totally different. But if it's a matter of he doesn't look the same, he's a little, whatever, he's going through the motions, that just might be his gait until you put him on the field, and now you see a guy that's running with his hair on fire.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to figure that out.
And Justin Johnson, he came out and played well last week, leading rusher, actually. I think he had 70, 75, 79 yards, something like that. And he has earned himself a more significant role in the offense. So maybe this is what CJ Donaldson needs. He just needs a little bit of a push because early on it was the CJ Donaldson show. Everybody knew it. It was, we're going to lean on this guy. We're going to give him 25, 30 carries a game. We're going to win. We're going to lose with this guy. And those other backs, they were kind of trying to not only find the role, but they were also dealing with some minor nicks and bruises and some sicknesses and stuff. So now that they're starting to come back, you see Justin Johnson making himself, asserting himself in the mix. You see Jaheim White making some splashes here and there. Jalen Anderson has looked good at times. If he gets a little bit of a push from those guys behind him, that might be all CJ Donaldson needs to finally get back on track to where he was a little bit ago. So as far as the defensive side, Well, I do want to throw this out there. Lance Dixon, the linebacker, he was not dressed in last week's game. He was suspended. Neil Brown said it's going to be a to be determined thing. Uh, let's just say we may or may not see him again. I'm not. I'm just going to throw that out there. I
Right.
don't want to make any predictions or anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him again. But they've got to find some answers there at linebacker because you are extremely thin there. They lost Trey Lathan already. You know, if Lance Dixon is a goner, then you lose him. You're down to a true freshman, and Ben Cutter, who's played well at times, but he's still learning how to play the game at this level. He's still learning to fit into this defense. You got Tariq Austin-Cave, who has barely practiced because of injury, and they're going to be putting a redshirt freshman out there, Caden Beiser, a walk-on, who's not going to get some playing time here this Saturday. They actually said he's going to get into the mix early on, so they've got to find some.
He may not be a walk-on for long.
Yeah, he may not be. And the same thing goes with the safety. I mean, Neil Brown talked about it. Like who they got is who they've been playing is who they got. They have nobody else right now. So there's some legitimate depth concern issues there. And that's not good when the safeties have not played well. Your linebackers have not played well against the run or really the pass. And you really can't turn to anybody else. So these guys that you've seen struggle the last 2 weeks, that's what this team's got to move forward with. So defensively, I think in this game, you've got to be able to start putting more pressure on the quarterback. We saw early on in the season, that's what this defense kind of lived by. That's kind of what made the secondary look a little bit better than it was. You lose Trey Lathan, that's a big hit. They have not been able to get to the quarterback in these last 2 games. Maybe the biggest surprising stat to me outside of the C.J. Donaldson stuff, Sean Martin through 7 games, 0 sacks, 0. I expected this kid, to have maybe 5, 6, 7 sacks this year. He was the second leading sack getter on the team last year behind Dante Stills. He's got to get going.
Well, I'll say this. Scheme. Scheme. So 2 things has to happen. If this is all you have, let me be clear, right? You have to scheme better and you have to simplify things better. Because if this is all you have, that means you can't have your DBs out there thinking.
Yeah.
They have to be out there reacting. They can't be thinking, which means they got to know exactly what they're doing. If this is all you have, right? Up front, you're 100% right. You have to find a way to put more pressure on the quarterback. And you got to get second and longs and third and longs. You got to help your back end. You have to. But again, this is what you get paid for. Schemes. You have to scheme a little bit differently now because you need to create some things to patch up some holes that you have and to make sure you get what you need to get out of said players. You got to get to the quarterback. We know that. If you're not doing it with what you have right now, then you better figure something out to scheme that to make it fit what you need to fit to get the end results the way you need them, to hit,
And really, this is not going to be an easy test because, you look at the record, UCF's 0-4 in Big 12 conference play, but throw that aside, this offense is going to be just as every bit of challenging or as challenging as the 2 offenses they just saw. They really kind of remind me a lot of Houston in some ways. They got a ton of speed, Gene. This has been UCF's bloodline for years. They get these burners that can just beat you in space, and that has not changed under Gus Malzahn, who loves to run the football. They are second in the Big 12, barely, by like 0.3 yards, 232 rushing yards a game. And R.J. Harvey, Johnny Richardson, if you combine them both, they're over, I think, they're either near or over 1,100 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. These guys are just absolutely trouble in space. And then you get to the receivers. Javon Baker, Kobe Hudson, those 2 guys are in the top 5 in the Big 12 in receiving. So they may be little guys. They are not big in stature by any means. But boy, oh boy, can they run.
They're difference makers. Yeah. You get those guys in space, you're going to have a problem. And here's the thing. Now, imagine getting those guys in space and you're not tackling well. So you imagine that a screen that should have went for 4 or 5 yards, you missed one tackle, and that's up the sideline for 6. So those are the things that you have to really worry about, because you're right. That reminded me of the Rich Rod teams when we had some serious speed at every slots. We had so much speed and that's why we didn't have to go vertical. We was throwing every kind of screen known to mankind, break a tackle. Jock Sanders is down the sideline. Noel Devine is, oh my God. It was ridiculous. But this team reminds me, with their skill and speed, of that type of team where you better be able to get them to the ground, because if not, it's going to be a long day.
It is, and as you can probably tell by the numbers that I just wrote off to you there, I mean, this is a balanced offense. Even though Gus loves to run the football, that's always been what he likes to do. I mean, they can sling it around too, and the big part of that now is they got John Rice Plumlee back, their starting quarterback, who they have been leaning on. He was out for a little bit with an injury. Timmy McClain filled in, did a really nice job for a backup quarterback. And he was the one that made that ridiculous play at the end of that one game a few weeks back against Baylor. But, John Rice Plumlee, he is their leader. And with him back at quarterback, this offense is just that much more dangerous. So, yeah, you're right. If you don't fit things in the run game, if you don't play well in coverage, this could be a very, very long game. And it could be a game where you get back into a shootout like you did with Houston. And if that happens, don't come down to a Hail Mary. Too soon. Too soon.
Yeah, look. Yeah, too soon.
So, flipping over to the other side just really quick, the UCF's defense, I mean, they've got some issues, obviously. I mean, when you're first year in the Big 12 conference, you're going to have some depth issues. You're going to have some trouble stopping people, giving up nearly 30 points a game. Their third down percentage, they are the worst third down defense in the Big 12. They're giving up 45.5% on third down. That is a key mark for this team, for West Virginia, who hasn't really been that great on third downs. So you take that into effect, but their defensive line, they've got 2 really good edge players. Tremont Morris-Brash, 13 tackles for loss and 6 sacks, both lead the conference. Malachi Lawrence, 5 sacks, third in the conference. So they've got some guys that can get after the quarterback, and that's why it is so paramount this week that Garrett Green gets the ball out of his hands quickly, finds E.J. Horton, Devin Carter, Cole Taylor, the tight end, use the running backs in the quick game. They've got to get the ball out quick and maybe use that as your explosive plays and not try to hit things downfield as much, because we really haven't seen this receiving group really make plays in space or make plays after the catch.
And that's a problem. And again, you can't have that. This game is going to come down to making sure the things that you can control, you control. Making sure the things that you need to do well and be consistent with it, you have to do them well. And guess what? It's not the big things.
Yeah.
This is going to come down to being repetitive with doing the little things over and over and over again to win this football game. It don't have to be grandiose.
Right.
But we're going to have to be good at what we're good at to win this game. It's as simple as that. If it's the run game, if it's a short pass game, if the short ball game is going, if it's getting to the quarterback, scheming up things a little bit differently, whatever it is, we have to do it repetitively to win this football game. Simple as that.
And 2 more things I want to throw out there too. I know I'm throwing a lot out there today, but hey, I got my stuff ready today. So the UCF, they are 13th in the Big 12 in penalties. So this is a team that has not been necessarily as disciplined. You could say it may be disciplined. It might just be a factor of, hey, they don't have the depth to really play deep into the third and fourth quarter, and they're getting tired, and they're just poor technique, leads to penalties and stuff like that. But look, you're a team in West Virginia that has been, for the most part, a very disciplined football team. You're facing a team that has not been disciplined. You should win that side of the battle. You should be able to play with good technique for 4 quarters and let them make the mistakes. And secondly, the other thing I wanted to point out, they've got to get out to better starts. They spotted Oklahoma State 10 points last week. It seems like every single week they're either having to come from behind or it's taking them a little bit, like 3 or 4 drives to finally get something going offensively. they've got to start out fast, especially when you're playing a team that's looking for their first Big 12 win and
Yep.
it's their homecoming game.
I agree. I agree with all of that. That assessment is spot on. We have to. It's imperative. And if we don't, coaching. It comes back to coaching, my guy.
So speaking of coaching, go ahead and give us your pregame speech in this week's Fire Me Up segment.
Listen, I'm pissed off about a few things. But the first thing I'm pissed off with, they say, now who are they? The experts. Well, everybody's sitting home on their couch. This is popcorn. They're eating their popcorn and they're watching the games and they're looking at West Virginia. Everybody got something to say about WVU. The so-called experts are saying that we are probably the worst team at this particular point in the Big 12 because of where we should be. And we're not. We're not the worst team, right? But if you keep playing the way we're playing, you're going to prove these people right. So I'm a little bit pissed off about that. The disrespect, the gall that these teams think that you can waltz in to this conference and play on the same field that we're on. And we've been in the conference for a few years now. So you really think, I don't care if it is the homecoming for UCF. I don't care. Here's the deal. If you freaking think the biggest slap in the face, you got the nerve to have us underdogs? 7-point underdog, touchdown underdogs? Are you kidding me? So my thing is, man, let me tell you, this whole freaking week, I would have sevens all around the freaking stadium. There would be sevens all around the stadium because I want that to be a constant reminder. They think we're going to go to Florida and lose to UCF by 7 freaking points. Are you kidding me? Now, I'm going to put the onus on where I need to put the onus. Let's make the main thing the main thing. All right, Green, could we please get the ball out of your hands? I expect you to because you're my guy. You're my starter. I picked you to be the main cog in this offense. Let's get it going. Again, my offensive line. Could we root these guys off the ball and move these jokers about 5 yards every time we run the damn ball? Can we do that? Backs, I need you humping. I need you humping. I need you getting 5 yards freaking carry. I don't care if they have 4 elephants out there. I need 5 yards of carry. Receivers, you better not drop anything. You better not drop one damn ball. I need you catching BBs in the dark. Because we really have to prove a point. On my defensive side, I want snot bubbles. Could we please come up and put somebody through the damn goalpost? Could we please do that? I really need us to send a message. And that message is, we are not going to lose by 7 freaking points to a team that just came to the damn party. Let's go, Mountaineers.
Man, I swear, each week I feel like there's no way you could top last week, but you do every single week.
Man, I'm fired up, Schuyler.
I have a feeling if they lose, it might be a little bit more interesting than that, and that was pretty fun. So, anyways, let's go and turn the tables here. Let's get into our weekly pick'ems. And Gene, my goodness, last week we actually picked every single game the same. So regardless, we were going to not have any separation. We both went 2-3. Unfortunately, BNAP and the Rhode Island Rams, they got beat by Albany 35-10. But hey, that's okay. They're going to bounce back. They're going to win out the rest of the year. So anyways,
absolutely.
Let's move on to this week's picks. We'll start in the ACC. It's a top 20 matchup. This is not a basketball game, Gene. Number 20 Duke at 18 Louisville, 3:30 ESPN. I haven't even checked to see what the status is of Riley Leonard. It's Tuesday when we're recording this, so it's probably irrelevant at this point. It's too early. But I'm going to lean to Louisville. They did not play well against Pitt, obviously. They lost the game. Duke has been playing better, but I just feel home field advantage. I think Brian Brahm's done a really good job with that team. I think they're going to find a way to respond. I've got the Cardinals.
No, I'm with you. I'm going to tell you something. I like Louisville. I think they play a tempo game when they have to. They know exactly what they need to do to win these type of games. There's no doubt. Yeah, I'm going for Louisville. I like the Cardinals in this.
Seems like we pick this team every week, but hey, they're always in these top 25 matchups, and that's Utah. Number 13, Utah, hosting number 8, Oregon. A big one in the Pac-12 this week, 3:30 ABC. Look, Utah's really a good football team at home. They stunned me last week. I went against them. I picked USC. You picked USC. I never thought they'd win that game. They got me believing, Gene.
No,
I had me believing enough to beat Oregon. Yes, I do. I'm going with Utah again this week. I'm probably wrong, but hey, who knows?
Well, I'm going to go with Oregon.
Okay.
And I think Oregon has enough. Utah is a really good football team. You're 100% right. But I think Oregon has enough to hold them off. Yeah, I'm going to go with Oregon.
Number 21, Tennessee at Kentucky, 7 o'clock ESPN.
Good game.
Tennessee is a loaded team, but for some reason, I don't feel like they're really quite living up to their hype. And it's a night game for Kentucky there at Kroger Field. They love to run the football. Their defense plays really good. I'm going to go with the home team here at night with the Wildcats.
It's so funny you say that because I was thinking the same exact thing, but not so fast, my friend.
Oh, okay.
I think Tennessee will show them a little something on the road, and I think they get a surprising win at Kentucky.
We're going to go somewhere we haven't been this year, I don't think, and that's to the Mountain West. And I wanted to throw in this because we do this every year. We pick one of these games that's really good. That is a pair of 6-1 teams, UNLV and Fresno State. This is a very good game. I think it's probably a little one-sided towards Fresno. I think UNLV is going to play a little bit more of a contested game, but I like their quarterback, Mikey Keene. 1,600 yards passing already, almost 1,700. I've got to lean with Fresno here. It's a tight game, though, but I'm going Fresno.
I'm with you. No, I like that. I do like that. I think, again, people don't realize they don't get a chance to see those type of games. They got a balanced offense. They run the ball pretty well. So, I'm good. I'm so good, especially when you run the ball well, being a former back and everything. Yeah. So, no, I'm with Fresno State. I think it's going to be a good game, though.
And so for the game that you're all here for, West Virginia and UCF. West Virginia is on a 2-game skid. They've got to put it to bed this week down in Orlando in the Bounce House for a homecoming date with the Knights. Here's what Neil Brown had to say earlier this week.
Could be 6-1, and but we're sitting here at 4-3. And the reason behind that is, we had leads in the fourth quarter the last 2 weeks, and we haven't finished. We haven't finished very well, particularly on defense. Haven't played well at all in the fourth quarter. It's pretty elementary stuff. It's things that we've done well, and that's why it's really frustrating. It's disappointing because we've done it well on tape, and we didn't do it well in the last 2 fourth quarters, and it's cost us. We have to get back to really some of the basics this week and do some things that maybe you wouldn't normally do during the season, but we're going to have to do that this week to get ready. It's not going to get any easier from a tackling standpoint. For us, it's just about getting better. We got to continue to put ourselves in positions to win in the fourth quarter, and then you got to close out games. You got to be able to close out games, and that's what this league comes down to. It's what it's going to be like on Saturday. It's what it's going to be like for the rest of the games we play this year. And so, wish we played right now. And so we need to get back and have a great week and get down to Orlando and put a better product out.
All right, Gene, let's go ahead and get into our pick here for the game. West Virginia UCF FS1 12 noon kick. It's an early one. We'll actually have the post-game show up early for you. Some of you guys may be catching it in the wee early hours of Sunday morning with all these late games the Mountaineers have been having, but we'll have it up as soon as it ends on Saturday evening. I said it earlier in the show. I've been saying it all season long. I've had West Virginia losing this game to UCF from the very moment the schedule came out. But West Virginia's lost these last 2 games. I think that they're a little ticked off. They're tired of hearing the noise again starting to creep up that this team's not good. It's maybe that 2-0 start in Big 12 play was just fool's gold. Is that really the case? Well, it is. I'm going UCF. West Virginia drops their 3rd straight. And John Rice Plumlee, those UCF backs, they're going to run all over the Mountaineers, unfortunately. But, Gene, I will put this out there, though. I picked the wrong team in this West Virginia game each the last like 3 or 4 games. So maybe I'm just doing this to get a West Virginia win and reverse psychology. Maybe it is the Mountaineers.
I don't care about reverse psychology. All I know is this. West Virginia better go to Florida and stomp a mud hole. I'm telling you, because we have to. We have to, and we will. We will not lose 3 games in a freaking row. Like I said, Schuyler, these jokers are new to the party.
They are. They are.
Can't do it, man. Can't do it, won't do it. Come on, let's go, Mountaineers. You say that they will lose and these backs will run all over them, right? I don't care. You already know. We will win this football game. There's no way we lose three football games in a row. No way.
So there you have it. I'm going UCF kinda here, but Eugene's going West Virginia. Let us know your picks in the comment section here on YouTube. If you get all 5 right, you get that man's autographed picture from his WVU football playing days. We've already got 1 winner this week. We didn't have anybody the last 2 weeks. Somebody is due to get back on the board here. So make sure you drop your winners in the YouTube comment section, and we will check that to see if you are a winner next week. So thank you guys for watching the Walk Thru GameDay Show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. And we will be back here Saturday evening to recap West Virginia UCF on the Mountaineers Now post-game show. Thank you guys. We'll see you then. Take care.